have made quite a lot of progress despite the heat. This entire side now is all cabled up and working, and the track laying and the points didn't take that long. I was quite surprised by how long it took to catch up with all the technology and the cabling. Really, because there were a good few additions that needed to be made and major changes. The first one, I guess the major one really, was down here. Although it looks the same, what's happening here is this is a second PCA, is it PCA 9685 board, PWM driver board. The first one is a few rafters down just on the back of that board there. Although it didn't take long to get them wired up, the big change was in the code on the sketch and handling multiple PWM boards, which wasn't, with the way that the sketch had kind of, I guess, organically developed between a few different people, kind of putting them on GitHub, copying it, adapting it. That's certainly kind of how I ended up with the version I had, but it wasn't built to support multiple PWM driver boards, so I had to pretty much rewrite it. And I will try and go through briefly as I can, the changes I made to it in order to make it be extendable and support multiple PWM driver boards, which can have multiple turnouts hanging off them. And down here is a brand new board, a new Arduino. So this is a third node on the RS485 chain. I didn't have to do, there's documentation and suggestions around that says you have to worry about terminators and things like that. I didn't. The 3 TTL modules are just cabled up as they came out of the packet when they arrived, no soldering or anything like that, so this is just added as a third node. I've also updated my panel, which now looks like a 4-year-old child drew it, but it's functional. One of the advantages of JMRI, maybe other software does it as well, is I can create as many of these panels as I like. So while this one's ugly, it's functional and it helps me, so I can just leave it there and then when I get time, learn how to do it more neatly and just create another one. I can also create specific ones, which I'll certainly do once, because this corner here is where all of the points going into the yard will be, and that's where all the points going out to the yard will be. So I'll be able to create panels specifically for that area and put them on tablets, sort of above. That's one of the areas there. So trying kind of above it there. So I've just got a specific panel for the points that will go there. When I'd originally got the 2 nodes on the other side in and switched everything on, yet again this Arduino and drive board that controls these points went bonkers. A few of them went crazy, so I've had to have them down again and realigned and fixed back up. I think it was all down to the shared 5-volt power supply. I think first of all, even with, was it 3 amps in the end, it just wasn't up to everything that was being pulled from it. So if there was a power shortage, you'd go to throw 2 sets of points and only one of them would move. So I've moved everything back onto isolated 5 volts power supplies now. So this one has its own and the other 2 have their own as well, and everything is much more stable. I always got a lot of instability as well, because the 5-volt power supply and the 3 Arduinos were on different power sockets. there was always going to be a delay between switching either the 5-volt supply on or the Arduino's on, and in that time it was all incredibly unstable. No matter what order I did it in, I got massive instability and strange noises and motors doing things they shouldn't do. So I have, with everything, with each 5-volt power supply being close to the Arduino's power supply now, I'm getting a lot less instability in the time between getting everything switched on. I've got a class 47, a Helgen class 47 running around. Just because I've changed the decoder in it, it was, whenever it started up on a hill with loads of, when it was dragging loads of coaches, it shorted the whole thing out, and I think it was because the decoder couldn't handle. I'll shut up for a minute. Definitely a strange noise when it goes over that turnout, and I have to keep an eye on that. Maybe something scratching on the bottom of it actually, maybe the piano wire's too high. I'll check it again when it goes around. But yeah, it was, when I tried to start it, particularly when it was on a hill going uphill and it was dragging lots of coaches behind it, there was a short and the whole layout went off. I think it was because it was a cheap, was it LAIS DCC decoder in it, and I think it just couldn't cope with the power that the loco needed to start on a hill pulling lots of coaches. So I've swapped it to a slightly less cheap Hatton's decoder, and I'm just giving it a run round now to make sure it's okay, but then I'll get some coaches on the back of it and start it on the hill and see if it improves. It's coming again, so I'll see if I can work out what on earth is causing this noise. Yeah, that's a scratch, isn't it? I'll have to get the choppers out and try and snip that piano wire down a bit more. So I've just taken a pair of pliers to it and pinged a tiny bit of piano wire up into the rafters somewhere. Let's see if it's made any difference. Beautiful. Nothing has yet objected to these S-bends, which is good news. Everything's going inside and outside without any issue. Got a passing loop set up underneath those boards now, so I at least have one storage line for a train, but obviously now all this is down, hopefully there'll be more coming along on this board in the foreground. And that's most of the good news out of the way, unfortunately. Something's happening here. When I got these baseboards, and I think I had a grumble about it on a video, the soft ply for B&Q, it was very obviously warped. And I just assumed that by screwing it down to the beams as they come across, it would straighten it out. But it hasn't. It's made it very hilly, which is obviously a big issue. I've kind of got three options, I guess. One is to leave it. This area in front won't be scenic and might end up covered up. It'll just be a great big yard. It'll have block detection for each yard parking space, if you like. So I won't really need to see it if it's working properly. So I could just cover it up and forget it's there. Issue with that is it's so bumpy that it might not work consistently. It's going to have a lot of point work on it, and points don't like hills and bumps. And I mean, there's one straight in front of the camera there. There are a lot of hills and bumps on this stretch of soft ply, and do I really want to start a layout with such uneven, dreadful, bumpy baseboard, even if it isn't going to be visible. And when I'm stood up I can't really see it, and that's how I've missed it this long. It didn't look bumpy, but as soon as you get down to this level you really can see the effect that it's having on the trains as they go through. But it's not, the worst one is in the middle, at just the middle of that train's going over now. They would be easy to swap. I think this side's made of 4 panels of this soft ply. The middle 2 would be very easy, I think, just to shift, just unscrew the track, slide one out, slide another one in. I think that would be okay. I might need to put other temporary supports in, but that would be okay. These 2 end pieces are more difficult because there's already point motors attached to them and points, so it will take a little bit more work. However, these 2 end pieces don't seem that bad. It's the middle ones that are quite bad, so I could just look at replacing the middle ones. But anyway, I need to have a think about it, and obviously make a decision before I start laying any yard lines on here, if that's what I'm going to do. Any advice welcome. I've had to park up the Class 47 again because I'm still getting shorts, more often when there are 2 other trains running on the tracks at the same time, but it used to do it when it was just that one, when I just had the incline loop going. I found this power meter in JMRI DCC++ extension. I don't quite know how accurate it is. I'm assuming the percentage is percentage of its total capacity. So I've now got 3 trains running on the layout, 2 with double headers, so the 2 intercities have got a power car at each side, the old Ringfield modified to a CD motor, and then there's a Bachmann Deltic doing the rounds. And we're at 20% capacity, 21% capacity. The Helgen Class 47, when it was running on its own, could get up to about 15%, and it seemed to draw much more power when it was on a corner than it was on a straight, so maybe I need to have a look at it, see if the wheels, something up with the wheels. But for the time being, I can't run that one on the layout. If anyone's got any ideas what on earth might be up with it, I'd welcome it. I will have a Google as well. This is a relatively new addition, a Bachmann Class 55, which is very unfashionable at the minute, obviously. I had been running the Lima Deltic, and it just it couldn't cope. It was too noisy, even with its CD motor in it. Couldn't really drag much up the hill. So, kind of in keeping with my new plan to really get rid of all of these some of the ones that I had since a kid I'm not going to get rid of, I'm going to keep around, but I'm going to replace with newer, more reliable stuff, which I'll need if I head into block detection, automation, that kind of thing. I'm going to need reliable running trains. So I looked round. I wasn't even aware at the time that there was such a thing as a Q-Scale Deltic. This one was a pretty decent deal. It's got lights. I think it was built in about 2013, something like that. It was advertised as new. I think I've got no reason to believe it wasn't new when I got it. It looked really quite clean. There was no evidence that it had ever run before. And compared to the Lima one, obviously, it's incredibly quiet. And yeah, much better pulling power as well. Like I said, I wasn't aware of the Akuta scale when I bought it. It was about a week after I bought that one. YouTube started to be flooded with videos of Acura scale Deltics, but obviously I couldn't have bought one anyway because they're all long since sold out, so no real regrets. And this is such a big step up for me anyway. I've also just had a new Swallow livery Class 91 delivered, but I don't have a decoder for it yet, so it's not running. Another tip for anyone using Arduinos and servos and everything like that: when you first switch an Arduino on, it immediately starts running the sketch that it's last had uploaded to it, which in the case of a CMRI node, the chances are it's going to start running before CMRI and JMRI, your computer, started up, because that takes a good minute longer than the Arduino is going to take, because that starts pretty much instantly. What happens in those circumstances, the Arduino immediately starts looking for CMRI to say, what's the status of all these points, what's the status of all these servo motors, and of course it gets rubbish values back because CMRI isn't running, so it gets nulls, zeros, and as a result it does tend to set points to random positions. And if, like me, you've got a couple of loops going, what you don't want it to do, and what it will do, is set some random points to open and some random points to close. Setting up sensors might fix that, so that it always knows what the status of, mind you, then you'll be bypassing CMRI, which isn't great either. So what I've done as an interim thing is, in JMRI you can set a route, and a route is effectively, you can set as many routes as you like, but you create a route and you tell it what all of the points, you can include whichever sets of points you want in your route, and you tell it where they should be set. And then you can set that route as a startup option in JMRI. So as soon as JMRI starts up, gets itself running, it sends messages out to all the turnouts and say, in my case, as it is here, close everything, just close your loops, and therefore I'm not going to have any shorts or anything like that. I can start everything up on the loops and off it goes. One additional tip, because I'm just at the point now I'm going to shut everything down and head downstairs, is I always try to avoid stopping any train that's running over any sets of points, because I know they're going to move. If I turn this all off and then I come in again tomorrow, I know that when I turn it all on, a lot of these sets of points are going to move, and obviously that could upset a few sets of wheels, that kind of thing. So when I'm shutting down, as I'm about to now, I just time it so that each train is in a good stretch of open track, so that when there's all the fidgeting and fiddling tomorrow, when I turn it all back on, no wheels will get upset and knocked off balance. So despite the issues with the baseboard, I am happy with how these lines are running. The trains are negotiating the curved turnouts without any issues. The electrics are all really starting to seem settled now. I'm encouraged by that. The S-bend behind me, everything is negotiating it fine, especially considering really nothing on this. This is a non-scenic level. This is where stuff will go to disappear, apart from the odd bridge where the upper deck will go over the bottom. So nothing needs to go any faster than it is now. It's come down to hide. It's either going to park, or it's going to do a couple of loops and then go back up onto the scenic layer. So nothing needs to be rushing, nothing needs to be going fast, and I don't think I've had a single derailment yet on this lower level on anything I've run. So really I think I have to be happy with that, especially with the bumpy terrain that it's running down on this side. So yeah, decision time. Am I going to take a lot of work on, pull this up, do it again? How am I going to fix it? And then once I've decided on that, get these yard lines in and all the extra points in, so that I can really start permanently storing my power sapping locos like the one down there on the layout.